Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. I got to work on one of my old vehicles for a change and really enjoyed myself. And I don't know if you can see the stuff on my fingers here. That's some rust proofing stuff. And I didn't wear my gloves. And what that means is when you get that stuff on you, and you do not use lacquer thinner like in immediately, that stuff has to grow off. It is absolutely awesome stuff, but it doesn't look very good. So guess what? I have to wear it until it wears off. So anyway, but I had a good time. Okay, I want to get right back into our study. We're examining the parable of the absent master of Matthew 25:14 and following on the following premise. If it's true that the return of the absent master in Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 and following occurred at the time of the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, then, number one, the Olivet Discourse is not divided into two different subjects, i.e., the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70 and the so-called end of time. Point number two, if Matthew 25:14 and following is a discussion of the Lord's coming in AD 70, then that means that there is no futurist eschatology, because all New Testament predictions of the return of the absent master are based upon Jesus's parabolic, teaching about the absent master. There are no New Testament prophecies of the return of the Lord that can be properly, exegetically, hermeneutically divorced from Jesus's parabolic teaching on the return of the absent master. And, of course, that means you cannot divorce any of the New Testament references to the return of the absent master from the Old Testament prophecies of the return of Yahweh, which would occur at the time of the judgment of Old Covenant Israel and his remarriage of Israel, the righteous remnant of Israel, joining together with Gentiles to create the new man. Okay, now last Thursday, I shared with you some thoughts on Hebrews chapter 9. Now, tomorrow I'm going to pick that up, but I really want to introduce the following thoughts to you as they relate to this return of the absent master. And then I will segue from this, and I will try to show the harmony between these concepts. And it's not difficult to show the harmony, okay? But this morning I want to return to Hebrews chapter 9, in which it says, "Now once, at the end of the ages, he has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself." It is critical at this juncture that we be able to see that Hebrews chapter 9, while it is discussing the typological actions of the high priest on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and Jesus' fulfillment of those typological actions, what we really have to also, in addition, be able to see is that the writer is bringing in Daniel chapter 9. And you may be going, well, how does Daniel 9 relate to Hebrews chapter 9? Oh, in just about every way possible. Daniel 9:24, 70 weeks are determined, Daniel was told. And ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget the covenantal context of Daniel chapter 9. Daniel had been praying, realizing that the 70 weeks foretold for the Babylonian captivity, foretold in Jeremiah 27, That 70-year captivity was near its close. They had not been restored. He wondered what was going on. And so the angel was sent to him. And by the way, over and over, Daniel says what had happened to them was a result of their violation of Torah. Now, he doesn't quote specifically from Leviticus chapter 26, although you can very, very clearly hear the echoes of Leviticus chapter 26 and Daniel chapter 9. He doesn't quote verbatim from Deuteronomy chapter 28 to 30, although once again, you can very clearly hear the echoes. Now, do yourself a favor. Go to the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend videos and watch Al Person's 2 lessons on the covenantal context of Daniel 9 and Revelation. And Al does a fantastic job showing you where Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28 to 30 lies behind Daniel 9. Daniel 9 lies behind the book of Revelation. Therefore, the book of Revelation is about the covenantal judgment of Israel in AD 70. Now, Daniel 9, verse 24, and I can't spend any more time discussing that, but Daniel 9, in response to Daniel's prayer about, Lord, why haven't we been restored? The answer is given that the ultimate restoration was never included in that 70 weeks, or 70 years, excuse me. 70 weeks are determined upon your people and upon your holy city to take away sin, to finish transgression. Wait a minute. To do what? To take away sin. To finish the transgression, which means to fill up the measure of sin. And put an end to sin. Okay, so 70 weeks were determined to take away sin, to make the atonement, and to finish the transgression. Look at those first two concepts. To make the atonement, to put away sin. Hebrews 9 is talking about the typological actions of the high priest on the Day of Atonement. And Christ's typological fulfillment of those typological actions, he appeared to put away sin. When did Jesus appear? Well, even the most rabid dispensationalists will agree he appeared after the 469th year. When did he die? Oh, in the midst of the 70th week. After the 69th week, Messiah shall be cut off. Daniel 9:26. Why would Messiah be cut off? By the way, I just have to take notice of this. Our dispensational friends tell us what? They tell us, well, you know, Jesus came to establish the kingdom. He offered the kingdom to the Jews, but the Jews rejected the offer, caught God completely off guard, so God had to back up 10 yards and punt, and I mean no disrespect here at all to the dispensational world. I'm just expressing it in kind of colloquial terms. But God withdrew the kingdom offer due to the Jewish rejection of his son. And instead of establishing the kingdom, he established the church. But wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. The rejection of Jesus, the death of Jesus, is predicted right there in Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. Do you catch the power of that? That means that the Jewish rejection of Jesus and the kingdom offer was always part of the plan. It was part of the 70-week countdown. It didn't catch God off guard. It didn't call for plan B. It was always the plan. So 70 weeks are determined to make the atonement, Hebrews 9 is about Jesus making the atonement. Daniel 9 is about putting away of sin. Jesus appeared, Hebrews 9, to put away sin. Look, to put away sin. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel 9 is clearly in Hebrews chapter 9. And it puts, listen to me carefully, that means it puts the fulfillment of Hebrews 9:28 firmly within the 70 weeks. Now, I realize what I'm about to say is controversial. I'll have more to say about it. The atonement was not finished until the return of Christ. Again, I'll talk about that later on. I know that's highly controversial, but to me it seems as clear-cut as could possibly be. In the meantime, 70 weeks are determined to put away sin, to make the atonement. The atonement, let me just simply make the statement here, would be consummated, perfected, done, finished, and applied at the second coming of Christ out of the most holy place for salvation. Now, listen to me very carefully. If the coming of salvation, if the coming of the Lord, if the coming of the absent Master for salvation is the coming of the Lord out of the most holy place to consummate the atonement, then since the atonement was to be completed within the 70 weeks, then unless you are willing to extend the 70th week into the far distant future, inserting a gap, as our dispensational friends do, inserting a gap between the middle of the 70th week and the end of the 70th week, unless you're willing to do that, then you have to admit that the second coming of Christ, the return of the absent Master out of the most holy place, was to occur within the 70 weeks. Well, what's the climax of the 70th week? Daniel 9:27 is very explicit. The end of what? The end of the 70-week countdown. The end will come with an overwhelming flood of destruction. The city and the sanctuary would be destroyed. That's the end of the 70 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It is not the end of the Christian age. It is not the coming of Christ to rapture the church off of the earth. It is the destruction of Jerusalem that occurred in AD 70. Well, obviously, I've got a whole lot more to talk about here, and we will conflate it with the feast days on the flip side. So I'll see you there.